So I have to admit something today that I'm not very proud of. Unfortunately, I have to admit that I've never actually dropped a nuke in Modern Warfare 2, the OG game at least. Never dropped a nuke in it, and I almost came close to one time. So I was 24 and 0. There was this map, this DLC map that came out, and you could hide in this rock, this giant rock. You could hide in. No one could kill you while you're inside there, but you could shoot while you're inside there and kill other people on the outside. And so I was 24 and 0, and my brother was sitting next to me while I was playing, and he said, "Dude, come out of the rock for a little bit. Get your last kill legitimate, because I was doing it pretty illegitimate, and so I jump out of the rock, and yeah, I definitely deserved it, but I definitely died right away. So I was 24 and 1, never got my nuke, unfortunately, and that changes today, maybe. I'm not going to tell you guys, you're going to have to watch the video, but in this video, I joined this game a little bit late, and I just started popping off out of nowhere. I was spawn killing for a majority of the game, but overall, it was just a really, really fun game, and it's the most fun I've had in COD in a really long time. But I'm going to let you guys just watch the gameplay while I talk a little bit here, because today's main point of this video is to talk about physical versus digital media. I want to talk a little bit about physical media, why I love it so much, why I still collect it and still believe in it. And then I want to talk about the digital media age, the age that we're in now. And I just want to explain a little bit my thoughts and opinions on the digital media age. So let's just get right into it. I grew up during a time where what you did on the weekends was you get the whole family in the car and you drive over to the local movie rental store, so like a Blockbuster, and you and your family pick out a movie to watch for the weekend. You return it on Sunday or whatever. And I really enjoyed doing that growing up. I thought it was super fun. I always looked forward to it. And one thing my brother and I would always do actually was we would go get video games from the movie rental store. And it wasn't that popular, at least like the place that we were at. So we didn't really have a Blockbuster, but we had this like off-brand type of thing called Movie Gallery, and that's where we loved to go because there was always video games there. Like I don't know if the kids in my hometown just weren't playing video games, but there was always video games in stock there. It would be hard to find certain movies, but it was never hard to find a video game you wanted to play. And I can remember we rented a game called Simpsons Hit and Run, and that game was incredible. Think of like GTA mixed with the Simpsons characters. And I was pretty young, so I don't remember the game completely, but I remember you go to like this phone booth and you open up the phone booth and you can get all these different cars, you call your car in. And it was just such a fun time playing that with my brother growing up. And it kind of helped spark my interest in video games in general. And what's crazy is it was all physical media back then. So we did have to return it, but we loved the game so much that we actually went out and bought it. And I remember we played that game so much as kids. And it's like a moment in time that I really cherish with my brother. And it's mainly because it was one of the first games I really fell in love with, like I said, but even one of the first games I probably really played. And granted, I probably wasn't supposed to be playing that type of game at that age, but alas, it kind of gave me a love for video games. I'd played some games before that, but nothing was ever like that I'd ever played. And overall, I just think it's pretty cool that our local movie rental place, just gave us the opportunity to even buy video games or rent video games, and it helped me find a love and passion for playing video games. I had video games at home, obviously. I had a couple of different games that I would play, but I didn't have the access to that many video games until the movie rental store showed up in town. So it really gave me access to a lot more games and opened up my eyes to what kind of games are actually out there. And I always thought that was really, really cool growing up. And I'm sad that, my younger sister and other people growing up now aren't going to ever have that experience that we had. Now I want to fast forward a little bit to when I was like 12 or 13, and I was able to kind of get video games on my own. Like my parents would help me out here and there, or I'd scrounge up some birthday money and finally get the game I'd been wanting for a couple of months. And I'll never forget that feeling of going to GameStop and getting the game. And if you guys remember buying games like even like 10 years ago, taking the plastic off the corners of the video game, it had these like little slits, and taking the plastic off of those corners was like the hardest thing in the entire world to do. And I would struggle the entire car ride home trying to get it open just so I could look at the manual on the inside and see, kind of what secrets are in the manual, or like if it came with a map or something like that. I would always read the manuals in the car ride home. And that's something I also loved about buying video games when I was a kid is, it always had that smell to it when you open up the case. But not only did it have the disc for the game, it would have those really cool manuals sometimes, and the artwork on the case would be so intriguing and so just different from anything you'd ever seen before. And it was really, really cool growing up. Like there was some really great artwork on games back in the day. And overall, I just really enjoyed the feeling of buying a new game and opening up the case. And then I had this little thing in my room that I would stack my game cases on, and I would just put it up there as soon as I opened it. And I always loved that as a kid. I always thought that was like the coolest thing ever, was to show off my like little game collection to my friends when they would come over. And that was like one of the coolest feelings ever too, because I would have friends stay the night on the weekends and we would be able to pick out from my whole physical library like any games we wanted to play. And I had some great games back in the day. I definitely did. But I also had some games I bought and didn't really enjoy as much. And the great thing with physical media back then, and I'm saying back then like it was 40 years ago, but I'm talking like 15 years ago, 13 years ago. And the cool thing about that time was you could take your games that you didn't want to play anymore and trade them in for new games. And I know there's so many memes with GameStop because they literally would give you like $5 for a brand new game. But it was all about the small game stores in my hometown. Those were the places, those were the gyms in my hometown that would give you like real money for games. And you could also buy other used games there for pretty cheap. So when I was done with a game, I could just take it there, trade it in, and get another relatively new game and only have to pay a couple extra dollars, maybe like 20 bucks extra on top of what I traded in. So I was really thankful for that growing up as well. And overall, I just think that the physical media aspect, at least of video games, is something that it kind of sucks that it's gone now. It's not necessarily gone, but it's basically gone. But what sucks about it is the fact that I know as a kid, that's something I always looked forward to, was buying new games or trading games in or going to the game store, like a GameStop or my hometown video game stores. And I just know that that's something that kids don't really get to experience these days. Nowadays, it's all about the Xbox store, the PlayStation store, or the Epic store. There's like all these different online stores that you can buy things from. And while it's really convenient, it's also just not the same. And as someone who grew up with a ton of physical media, I kind of hate the fact that everything's just digital now. I used to wait at midnight for Call of Duty releases to come out. Like I would go to GameStop and stand in line. There would be people out there with legit military uniforms on, just sitting outside waiting for the new game to come out or a new Halo or something. And that was such a cool feeling. It was a really cool bonding experience with whoever you'd go with, being up at midnight, taking the game home, playing for the entire weekend with your friends. And nowadays, I just pre download the game like 2 weeks before it comes out, sometimes even like a month. And then the game comes out, and I download it onto my Xbox, and I play it immediately, like as soon as it comes out. And yeah, that's convenient and it's pretty cool and easy. But I do miss the feeling of being in that GameStop line at midnight for like a half hour, just waiting to get my copy with my poster that came with it. And I just know that I was coming home from that midnight release, buying a 12-pack of Code Red Mountain Dew, and I was slamming it that night. But yeah, that's basically one of my biggest pet peeves about digital media, is just I think it kind of steals the experience away from kids that didn't get to grow up exactly how we got to grow up. And maybe that's for the better. I don't really know, but I just know that those were moments that I really cherished as a kid. And I know a lot of my friends did too, just from talking to them about digital media, physical media, and their experiences as being a kid as well. But I can understand the convenience factor of digital media. Like, I have Spotify. I cannot imagine how much money it would have cost me to download all the songs and albums that I have saved on Spotify. Like, it would have probably cost me like over $10,000 or something like that. Like, it would have been a crazy, absurd amount of money. And I just pay like $10 a month and I get all these songs accessible on my phone. Another reason why digital media is king now is because it's just so accessible. Like, there's a reason why Blockbuster doesn't exist anymore, or my local movie store that I used to go to. It's because things like Netflix exist now, and you can just watch anything from your living room. You just buy it or rent it or pay a subscription fee, and it's really that easy. You can watch basically anything now. And I'd be lying if I told you guys that as much as I love physical media, that I don't consume any digital media. I don't buy any digital media, but I definitely do. I've bought movies in the past, although I think they're absurdly expensive online, but I've bought movies in the past. I've bought a ton of video games online. I still buy all my games digitally, basically up to this point. I don't really buy any games physically anymore. And again, it's really just because of the convenience factor. It's way more convenient for me to just open up my Xbox and download the game that I want to download rather than go drive to a GameStop or a Walmart and go purchase the game physically. Again, also, there's really only like GameStop that takes trade in for video games anymore, that at least I live nearby, and they give you pennies for it. So it doesn't really make sense to buy physical if you're planning on potentially selling the game at some point. But all of this physical versus digital media, at the end of the day, I don't really think there's a clear winner. I think digital media has made video games and movies and music way more accessible, which is pretty awesome. But I think the downside of digital media is all those things I stated before: the midnight releases, the cool artwork on the cases, the feeling of opening up a new video game when you get it, renting video games, renting movies, all those things were really great experiences I had as a kid. And I think that not many kids these days get to have those types of experiences. The other thing about physical media is I'm a collector at heart. Like, I've always collected Pokemon cards and video games and movies and all those types of things. I've always collected all the things that I bought. And even today, I still collect a lot of my music physically. Like, obviously, I download it on Spotify, but if it's in a record form, like if I can get it in a vinyl or if I can buy it on a CD, a lot of times I go the vinyl route just because I do have a pretty good sized collection at this point. But I love to buy records. I love to buy, physical media if I can, DVDs, things like that. Old video games I love to buy. But I do love the fact that I have a lot of my old physical media, like my old DSs, my old Xboxes. I have those things. And it's something that I'm proud of because my brother and a lot of my other friends, they always talk about the fact that they wish they never sold their old DSs. Like, they can't play the Pokemon games they want to play. And that's the thing that kind of sucks with it, is if you didn't keep those things, it can be really hard to play them. And I'm really glad and, happy that for some reason, the younger version of me just decided to keep all those things. And I still play my old Pokemon games and some of my old video games from time to time. I mean, I'm playing Modern Warfare 2 physically on disc here. This is not on PC. This is on Xbox, and I have the actual disc from when I was a kid. So overall, I really just wanted to share my opinion on the whole digital versus physical thing. If you're someone that likes physical movies, music, video games, just like me, then I'd love to hear a little more about your collections in the comments and things like that. Like, what's something that you're just the most proud of that you kept or that you've collected over the years? I would love to know that. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it was a little bit of a longer one. Hopefully you enjoyed the gameplay. As you can tell, I did not get that nuke, unfortunately, so I'm still nukeless in MW2, but here's to hoping for the future I can get a nuke. And if you want to help me get there, just let me know. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.